Oh,
I never left.
I was saying, you, I hate Bridge.
Yeah, no,
Good evening. Adequate notice has been given in accordance with the Sunshine Law. Notice was published on December 13th, 2018, in the local source, the official newspaper of the Township of Springfield, for the year 2019, and posted in the Annex Building on December 14th, 2018. Please rise and join me for the pledge. Allegiance to the flag Can I get a roll call, Jen?
Yep. Mr. Stephen Hochstein.
Here.
Ms. Jody Cohen is absent. Mr. Daniel Poltrock is absent. Mr. Mark Cunningham.
Here.
Mr. David Schnur is on his way. Ms. Kara Greco. Here. Mr. Jonathan Sagalow.
Here.
Vice Chairman Greg Roth.
Here.
And Chairman Anthony Fonseca is absent. So with his absent status, Vice Chair is now Chair for this meeting, Greg Roth. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Can I ask for approval of the minutes from last month, please?
I'll move to approve. Second.
You want a roll call? You're gonna,
All.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we have three resolutions to approve. The first one is application 2019-5, Vanderson Alfonso, 113 Baltusrol Way, Block 604, Lot 6, bulk variance for an addition. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Mr. Cunningham.
Yes.
Mr. Hochstein.
Yes.
Ms. Greco.
yes.
Mr. Sagalow.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Roth.
Yes.
Motion passes. And David Schnur entered the meeting at 6:35. Thank you. For the record.
The second application is 2019-4, Dr. Sally Aclamari, 420 Morris Avenue, Block 110, Lot 1, a preliminary and final site plan, use variance and bulk variance for the X-ray technician school. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Mr. Hochstein.
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham.
Yes.
Mr. Schnur.
Yes.
Ms. Greco.
Yes.
Mr. Sagalow.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Roth.
Yes.
Motion passes.
The last application for approval is, resolution for approval is application 2019, is it 2-2019-S?
Yeah, let me just preface that for a second, please. It was originally sent to the planning board, which is why it has that weird number,
Okay,
and he noticed. So I didn't want to change the application number to an official zoning board number, because then he would have to renotice. But
Makes
that's why it
sense.
looks weird.
all right, Pop Realty, 275 Route 22, Block 3903, Lot S 3, 4, and 5, preliminary and final site plan use variance for the auto leasing. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Hochstein?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Mr. Sagalow?
Yes.
And Vice Chairman Roth.
Yes.
And motion passes. And for the record, Jody Cohen came into the meeting at 6:37.
All right, so the first application tonight is application 2019-7, Aaron and Rachel Baker, 10 Oak Ridge, Block 3304, Lot 20, for a front yard variance for an addition.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Please state your name and address.
Rachel Baker, 10 Oak Ridge.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give will be the truth?
What would you like to do?
We would like to add an addition above our garage to allow for my in-laws to come stay with us for a longer period of time so that they have a comfortable place to stay.
Okay. And what is the variance for, they're encroaching on the, okay. So after you put up the addition, are the building materials that you're existing on the house gonna match the addition?
Yes,
Are you redoing the whole thing or just gonna make it,
we're gonna make it, consistent across, so.
okay. Does anybody on the board have any questions about this application? Anybody from the public here on this application wish to speak? Well, if there's no questions, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve. Joe, do you have anything before
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, great. Ms. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Mr. Hochstein?
Yes.
Mr. Polchak? I'm sorry, he's not here. Mr. Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Schnur?
Yes.
Mr. Sagalow?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Roth.
it? Yes,
Motion passes.
Thank you.
welcome. Yeah, I was gonna, so,
Yeah.
so since there was no opposition here,
Yes.
you can ask for a waiver of the right of the resolution, so you could start now if you wanted to.
Great.
But you have to know that you're doing it at your own risk.
Meaning that if,
Can you explain that to me?
meaning if somebody had, an issue, they could bring it up and you'd have to stop construction until the resolution passes,
Which is a month from now.
which, yeah, at the next meeting it will be,
I mean, you don't have any, but there's nobody's,
Okay, no,
So would you like-
I'm comfortable with that, yes.
okay,
Great.
good luck.
Thank you.
luck.
You're welcome. Okay, next application, application 2019-9, Richard Rodriguez, 14 Kemp Drive, block 3303, lot 50, side yard variance for an enclosed porch. How you doing?
Rich Rodriguez, 14 Kent Drive, Springfield.
Thank you. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I do. I just.
Yes, what would you like, what are you here
Yes,
for?
I have an existing deck off the side of my house, which comes up to the backyard of my next door neighbor. And we just want to close it in. The measurements will be 16 by 13, and the reason we want to do it is my son has Sjogren's disease, which we get a lot of mosquitoes and bees back there. And one of the side effects of Sjogren's disease is you get these huge welts as opposed to mosquito bite, they last a little over a week. So we just like to not be going back there and sit out there and comfort and protect my son.
How far are they?
it's 6 walls. Yeah.
Six,
Within
six.
the bounds
Mind
of
you-
the existing deck.
From what I see in your application, that you did get a variance back when you built the deck, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And this is staying within.
This is staying within the same, you're just
Yes.
closing the porch?
Yes,
'Cause it's on the side of the house and it's kind of,
yes, it's on the side.
yeah,
of the deck.
yes. I kind of, yeah, I saw it, I familiar with the,
Okay.
you know, I went by and saw the property, so. That was my one concern, is the fact that, you know, the existing deck that's there did have the variance, so.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's staying within the distance.
okay.
It's hard to imagine what the house is going to look like with this low-pitched, screened-in porch. I personally would like to see an elevation of what it looks like on the existing house, as opposed to just a drawing of this enclosure.
How would do I get an architect to show?
You'd
it?
have to get somebody to draw it for you to show it to us, because I personally, based on what I see here, I don't think it's gonna look very nice from the street, and you're asking for a variance at the front, so that's just my personal opinion. But it would help to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I guess I go to an architect, or I don't know who draws it.
That's, you know, that's typically what, you know, you would do, is have somebody who knows what they're doing to draw it and show it.
No, he made it sound like it was done all the time, and we just wanted to make sure we crossed our eyes and
It's,
crossed our T's and dotted our I's.
from my experience, it's typically something like this is put on the back of the house where you really don't see it from the street. The fact that it's so visible from the street, I think it would be nice to be able
Because
to.
it's not gonna from what I can tell here, it's not matching anything with the existing house.
Okay,
So we can't tell by looking at this from the manufacturer what it even, what the
okay,
materials are or anything.
all right. So it would be white and screens and
And it's a permanent structure, it's not like a retractable screen or anything like that?
No, it's a permanent.
Front, okay.
You can take the screens out.
Right.
You can't take them out over the winter, so they don't get ruined, but, yeah, but it's a permanent structure.
So,
Yeah, I agree that we should see what this looks like.
yeah.
It's because it's right, it's on the corner of the street there.
Yeah, I drove by, I
Yeah,
can't,
but-
from the pictures, yeah. So what I would ask you to do is just come back next month with a picture. I mean, he can't do, he has to come back in front of us, correct?
It's whatever the board prefers.
Well, personally, I don't think I could vote on something that I don't see.
Yeah, neither can I, so.
Okay, so come back next month.
Yeah, we have to see something, everybody on the board's gonna wanna see what it's gonna look like.
That's fine.
Mr. Hodgson, can you advise him, like, what type of drawing he should have? So
I think a front elevation drawing done by an architect would probably be appropriate
Elevation drawing by
to show what it looks like on the house with, showing how this would look and affect the aesthetics on the front of the house, because it is very visible from the street.
Okay.
And you may, once you look at it, you may rethink it as well.
True, you never know. Okay,
So, that's just,
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
problem.
We'll see
thank you
ya.
very much.
Just for the record, why don't we get a motion to adjourn it for 1 month, and it'll be part of the record, and it'll be clear that there doesn't need to be renoticed.
That's great. So can I get a motion for adjournment for next month so we can see the elevation,
I'll
front
make a
elevation?
motion to adjourn for a month.
I'll second that motion.
Need a roll call?
Or just,
No, all in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, so our last application is application 2019-8, New Jersey American Water Company, Inc., 46 Morris Avenue, Block 404, Lot 3, preliminary and final site plan, use variance, and 3 bulk variances for the booster station.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Neil O'Brien, law firm of Archer and Griner, on behalf of the applicant, New Jersey American Water Company. As you'll hear in testimony tonight, the application in terms of development, we think is fairly straightforward and fairly minor, but in terms of the public utility use, it will provide an important service between the applicant, 2 of the applicant's water distribution systems. So as we say, the property is 46 Morris Avenue, Block 404, Lot 3. It's a corner lot intersection of Morris and Warner Avenues. Used to be a gasoline filling station a few years back, and most recently, some folks used to sell some Christmas trees out there. Property, as you've probably all seen, is not in great condition, but will be significantly upgraded as part of this project. It's 12,140 square feet in size. Applicant owns it. It's within an office zoning district or an O zoning district, has access on both avenues. Because public utility facilities are not permitted within the O zoning district, we're here to ask you for a use variance to allow us to use the property as a public utility water system booster station, which essentially is a facility that transfers water between 2 of the applicant's systems, which the applicant will describe for you a lot better than I probably could. Small building surrounded by a security fence, some driveways, some asphalt, some landscape stone, and some fencing retaining existing shade trees on the property to provide vegetation. Again, we're asking for a use variance approval this evening, and also, out of an abundance of caution, 2 bulk variances. One is for the existing size of the property, 12,140 square feet. Minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet is required by ordinance. Of course, there's nothing we can do to change that. We're certainly not shrinking the lot. A related variance is for the property to have a lot depth of 100 feet when a minimum of 150 feet is required by, or 120 feet, sorry, is required by ordinance. Again, not much that we can do to change that. Finally, because as with all utility facilities, a security fence is necessary. Ours will be 6 feet high. It'll be a black decorative fence, a ornamental fence facing the street. It'll be 6 feet high, as I say, when fences can't be located in the front yard pursuant to your ordinance. So if I could, I'll have the folks that will be testifying come up and we can swear them in, get them qualified, and we'll explain to you what the project is about.
Whoever's first?
Oh,
Ladies
prefer to
first.
do that for each
Yeah.
board's different. I'm Tiffany Morrissey. I'm a licensed professional planner, planning consultant for the Essex.
You want me straight? Yeah,
Want to do it
one-
together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Hi, I'm Frank Marasha. I'm the production manager for New Jersey American Water's Passaic Essex Water System, and I'm also one of the licensed operators for the system.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
I'm Michael Polano from Deepwater Horn Incorporated, engineering firm representing New Jersey American Water as the
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who's testifying first? Okay, well, I need credentials from the two.
say they're
So,
Been a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, licensed since 2005. I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Drexel University, as well as a master's degree in environmental science from Drexel University.
You've been involved in the design of the project.
Yeah,
and your license is currently in force?
yeah.
Great, we can accept, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Frank is the applicant.
No, the other professional, please.
I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey, also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. Been practicing as a professional planner since 1995. I have a master's in city planning from the University of Pennsylvania and represent numerous boards throughout New Jersey as well as applicants for boards like this.
And your license?
standing, good
Great,
standing.
thank you, we can accept, thank you.
Mr. Marasha, if you could, I spoke briefly about public utility water distribution system. Could you tell the board why this facility is necessary? Explain a little bit about the two systems we're talking about, and how we came to be where we are today.
Good evening, everyone. So, I work for New Jersey American Water, operating their, what we call our Passaic Essex Water System, which serves about 217,000 customers in parts of Essex, Morris, Union, and Somerset counties. We're located just north of Route 78 in the Passaic River Basin. Passaic River Basin is considered water poor, simply because the way our diversion permits are written, we can only divert water out of the river to fill our reservoirs up if we have passing flow, which means it has to rain. If it doesn't rain, we don't have passing flow, we cannot fill the reservoir up adequately.
When you talk about a diversion permit, you talk about your ability to pull water from a source, whether it's a groundwater source or a well, or a water body for use in the distribution of customers.
I'm specifically talking about our Canoe Brook surface water treatment.
If you're gonna speak, just do me a favor, also speak into a microphone so it's on record, please, thank you.
So at our Canoe Brook surface water treatment plant, we have 3 large reservoirs there. We would draw water out of the Passaic River and fill those reservoirs up. Those reservoirs have no natural drainage whatsoever. Every drop of water that is in there is water that we pump out of the river to fill them up. If you look at it, percentage-wise, of the 217,000 customers that we serve water to, 40% is from sources that we derive the water, either groundwater or the surface water source I just spoke of. 30% is from water that we purchase from other purveyors, and the remaining 30% is from water that we transfer from our sister system called the Central System to the south, which is just south of Route 78. That system is in the Raritan River Basin, which is considered water-rich. And the reason why it's considered water-rich is the 2 large surface water plants that are located in that basin derive their water from the Raritan River. The company, New Jersey American Water, purchases the raw water from the state of New Jersey through the New Jersey Water Supply Commission. They need to make releases from the 2 reservoirs in Hunterdon County, most notably Spruce Run and Round Valley, into the river for our 2 surface water plants to pick up. So those 2 plants have what we call a guaranteed source of supply. No matter what the adverse conditions are, the state has to release that water for us to pick up and treat and distribute to our customers. We rely on that finished water to transfer to meet our system demand here in the Passaic Essex Basin system. So this pump station will enable us during a stressful time, whether it be a hot summer day, fire such as you had tonight, or if a source becomes compromised, it'll enable us to meet our demand and serve our customers more efficiently due to the restraints that we have on our source of supply here.
So how does this facility do that specifically?
It simply pumps water from our Raritan system, which is at a lower elevation than we are, to our Passaic Essex system, which is at a higher elevation. So it's just a simple mass transfer of water.
So you have two systems of water mains and water distribution mains which are not connected, but this facility will essentially connect them to allow water to pass from one to the other.
Yes, that is absolutely correct.
And this is not a new need that the water company has, correct? What did the water company do before, or what is it doing currently prior to this facility being built?
Well, we have other points of transfer that we transfer water from our Raritan system to our Passaic Essex system. This would be simply one additional line of transfer, specifically into what we call our Canoe Brook zone, which is challenged in the summertime due to high demand. So it's an additional additional source to add resiliency and robustness to the water system.
So talk about the facility itself.
The facility would be a simple booster station. We have what's called end suction pumps, which have a smaller footprint than a regular horizontal split case pump. We did that specifically to keep the footprint of the building small. The facility is going to be off more than it's going to be on. It's only meant to transfer water during a high demand time, such as a hot summer day, drought, fire, or if one of our sources in the Passaic Essex system becomes compromised, then we have to replace that with additional water from somewhere else. Like I said, it's going to be off more than it's going to be on, and it will probably be visited by our personnel periodically just to make sure that the building's intact and there's no vandalism.
So the facility itself is unmanned on a day-to-day basis?
That is correct. The facility would be unmanned.
So what kind of vehicle traffic should we expect?
Just a small utility vehicle, probably a 3/4 ton pickup truck.
And because it's just two pumps effectively, are there any chemical deliveries, any storage of chemicals?
No, there will be no water treatment or chemical treatment at this facility. It'll simply be a transfer of water.
Does it generate any noise?
No, with the pumps running inside the building, you'd be hard pressed to hear any noise from the outside.
Any domestic refuse or recycling trash?
No, none. It's an unmanned facility, so there'd be no generation of those waste streams.
So this location is it ideal for this facility because it's located at a point where it can connect the two systems?
Yes, it's specifically located in a point where it would be most optimal for the transfer because the mains are adequately sized between the two systems. It'd be a large main coming from the central system with the pump then connecting it to a larger main on the Passaic Essex side. So it's strategically located to take advantage of the bigger water mains to enable an efficient, optimal transfer.
So again, just to repeat, what are the primary benefits of this facility?
Just resiliency and robustness to the water system, specifically the Passaic Essex system, and to leverage the ample supply in our central system to meet the demands in the Passaic Essex system for either whatever the demand is, whether it's, like I said, a drought condition or a fire or another source becomes compromised. It's simply an additional source to add robustness to the system to adequately enable us to deliver an ample quantity of water to our customers.
We'll have our civil engineer get into the site plan details and the nuts and bolts. Are there any questions regarding what Mr. Marasha has given testimony to? The construction of the building, if I'm understanding correctly, there's the two mains that run underneath the footprint of the building, or what is the construction necessary to get these pumps between these two mains?
The mains are in the street, so
They're on Morris Avenue?
correct, right,
Okay, so there's the two mains that are there.
correct.
Okay, and so would you have to tear up the road to get there, or? Sorry, what was the Tear question? up the road to? No, that will not be necessary, whatever. Everything, all the construction can be done from inside the site. Yes. Is that right? Yes.
You mentioned that we're not creating a lot of noise. Do you have a decibel reading of what it would be like outside of the facility and maybe a comparable facility?
I think the testimony was that it would be negligible. You'd hardly hear it, so it'd be very low, but certainly it'll meet DEP noise criteria,
Okay.
as it must.
I have a question. As part of your submission, you gave photographs of a similar facility. Is that facility basically identical to this?
We're going to have our civil engineer address that. If you don't mind, can I defer that?
Not at all.
till he- Thank you. Thank you. And there are a couple of comments in your planner's report that go to that as well, which we'll address.
And one other question. There's a lot of pavement staying on the property. Is there any vehicles that will be parked there as
Not
far as?
Just whenever the personnel visit the facility, but there'll be nothing parked there overnight.
Is there any reason why they couldn't have less pavement to make this facility, it seems like there's a lot of asphalt that's staying, so I didn't know if there was a reason why there was so much pavement staying.
Yeah, I think our civil engineer will probably address that too. There are reasons that have to do with access to the building and service visits and stuff like that, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak to this witness? Okay, thank you. I was gonna do it at the end, after each.
Michael Polano?
Counsel, just so for the record, if you're using any exhibit that was not submitted to the board, let's just make that clear so we can mark it today. Thank you.
Will do, counsel. Mr. Polano, I've just marked the aerial photograph with site plan overlay as A1. Would you mind giving the board an orientation to the property, sort of top-down view?
Sure. So the property is located at the corner of Morris Avenue and Warner Avenue. It's, most of the surrounding properties are commercial. There is one residential property located, the property adjacent on Warner Avenue is a residential property. Again, the lot size is 12,140 square feet. But, you know, the nature of the building of this use, it does not require any additional area. And just to, answer one of the previous questions, with the existing water main was installed, I believe fairly recently, I'm not sure exactly when, but it does have some stubs up into the property. So basically, they'll make their connection behind the curb. So it's already located behind the curb, so they don't have to go out into the street to connect to the existing water main.
What size vein is that? Is that a curiosity?
It's a 16-inch, 16-inch main.
So, Mr. Polano, I just marked a set of photographs that we have with us, A2, which is 4 photographs of the existing condition of the property. Would you describe to the board the condition of the property using the photographs?
Sure. And I believe this was not presented earlier.
Right, we marked it as A2.
Right, okay. So the existing property was a former gas station, also recently been used as, for Christmas tree sales. As you can see, the existing building is not in very good shape. The pavement, there are several cracks in the pavement. So, obviously, the new building, the new structure, will be much more pleasing to the eye, and also, we will have the security fence and new paving around the property.
There are also a lot of existing shade trees shown in the photographs, and most of those will be retained, correct?
Correct.
And the gas station had 3 site accesses, one onto Warner Avenue and 2 onto Morris Avenue. We'll be reducing that to 2.
Correct. Actually, one of the accesses that's can be seen in the lower photo here has already the curbing has been brought up, so that access is essentially not available, but the other two accesses will remain.
So switching back to A1, would you say that this property is ideally suited for the proposed use?
Yes, it is, as discussed before, with it being essentially in between the two systems. And also, you know, it's a relatively small building, so it fits well on a small lot. So yes.
Could you show the board on A1, the location of the security fence, the location of the two driveways, and the two gateway accesses?
Sure, okay, so the security fence is this area in yellow here. And then the two access drives, one on Warner Avenue here and the other on Morris Avenue here, that will have two security gates there. The existing access that will basically no longer be an access is here, there will be no gate there. And again, the curbing is already been brought up there, so.
Which one of these will be the primary access?
Primary access will be off of Warner Avenue. The Morris Avenue access would really only be used in the event of an emergency, or if for some reason there had to be multiple vehicles there, which is unlikely.
So again, what are the reasons that we need the two accesses? The question was specifically asked. Why can't we just eliminate one?
Well, in the event of some type of an emergency where the main access was blocked, a fallen tree, a disabled vehicle, something along those lines. So that way they would have another access in and out. And also, that access is located, the gate is 20 feet from the curb, so there's plenty of room for a vehicle to pull in there, park if need be, even outside of the fence, and still not block traffic on Morris Avenue.
So in designing the site, did the non-conforming size of the lot, the smaller lot, or lot depth present an issue in designing the site?
No, it did not.
So again, describe the building and the proposed improvements in the building. You've touched on it you touched on it a little bit already.
So with, obviously with the fence, the security fence around the entire property, as well as the doors will be security doors. There will be just wall pack lighting, so that won't present any disturbance beyond the property.
So the wall pack lighting will be at the doors into the building?
Yes.
And no floodlights, no pole-mounted lights, and the
Correct.
street lights will be sufficient?
Yes.
There's a residential property to the rear along Warner Avenue. There's currently a dilapidated fence there. What are we doing back there to help our neighbor?
Well, we're going to replace the fence there with the chain link fence, black vinyl coated chain link fence.
That'll be the station security fence, but back at the property line, we're proposing a stockade fence, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, stockade fence on the back of the property.
And there are fairly significant shade trees in that area which will be retained.
Correct. Shade trees will be retained, yes.
So are we proposing any additional landscaping? And if not, why not?
We are not proposing any additional landscaping, basically so that there's access, to the site for the vehicle or vehicles that would come into the area.
Okay. We don't need dedicated parking spaces on this property, correct?
No dedicated parking spaces. Again, the vehicles will just come in, park, and the worker will go into the building as needed and then exit the property.
So if you could describe the building itself, the questions already came up, and I'm going to show the board photographs that were submitted in connection with the application that show really their manufacturer's specifications for this type of building.
So, okay, you're gonna talk about that, but the pictures on that board there and the pictures in your plans don't look the same. So, I wanna know which one is what the building's gonna look like. The roof in this building is a lot more pitched than the roof in the plans. The plans look like it's pretty flat. And there's a lot more space above the doors on the plans than there is in these pictures. So my question is, which way are you going?
See the board.
It's page,
That's, as far as we go.
CO3.DWG. You have it, I mean, because we have it.
It's the one
No,
right
no.
before that.
Right before that.
The-
Those pictures do not look like those pictures. They're not even,
All right, well, all right, so these, the example photos here, again, are basically just example photos of similar buildings. You know, what's shown here, this is, you know, a CAD drawing. This is, you know, what the building will look like. I mean, as far as the pitch of the roof, you know, the siding will be very similar to what's shown in the photo, and even, you know, the shingles on the roof and everything, but as far as, you know, the pitch of the building will be what's shown here on.
Is there any reason why you can't lower the plates and have the pitch be steeper so it's more attractive?
It's a modular building, and we would have to discuss that with the manufacturer. It's a pre-manufactured building, and we could certainly discuss that with the manufacturer.
One of the comments in the planner's review that we received in connection with the application also was a request to sort of enliven the facades a little bit, and we're prepared to work with your planner to do that. We are prepared to agree with that. So that could certainly be one, if that's the board's preference, that can be certainly one of the questions that we've got, absolutely.
But you see the difference between the...
I do, and you picked up on it, and I did not. My apologies.
sorry to interrupt you, Kim.
No.
That was just a main thing that we noticed.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, so the building is a single-story, A-frame shingle roof, 510 square feet in area. Again, you know, these photos here are just representative. You know, it is not intended to be, this is exactly what it's going to look like.
But this is the type of building.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly, this is the type of building, and, you know, as mentioned, we would, you know, be willing to add some features if necessary, or work on that.
Any other questions for Mr. Polano?
Is there any reason why the equipment inside of there would ever be upgraded? I don't know if you're the right person to answer that, but. Like,
It may need to be replaced, certainly.
I don't know, I mean, like,
Yep.
that the Canoe Brook area requires more water, and this one's the most and therefore you need bigger pumps.
I think we'd probably have to build another facility if there was a significant upgrade in the volume of water that was to be transferred. And my client's confirmed, and they can certainly come up and confirm if you'd like me to.
Yeah, I need on the mic, please. Sorry.
Thanks, Frank.
The amount of water that we could divert is limited by the hydraulic capacity of the two distribution systems, and we're about at the max that we could do now. So I don't think there'd be a need to upgrade the pumps to at least increase the quantity, because we'd be limited by the main size, unless we replaced all the mains.
One other thing I want to ask about landscaping and aesthetics from the street. Is there any reason why you can't put some evergreens or some things along the front that maybe, so it's just not a big stark fence along the road there?
So with a public utility, any kind of utility facility, you generally want visibility inside the station. I think years ago, the utilities used to, the building itself would be just a plain concrete, and you'd try to block it from view from the street. Nowadays, more conventional thinking is that, you know, folks, and I guess we're talking about teenagers, are going to try to get inside there. And if they do try to get inside there, you want to be able to look in, you want to be able to have somebody see them as they're driving by and hopefully call the police. So certainly I think we could consider some low-lying landscaping if that was the board's preference. But in terms of something that would block visibility, I think that the applicant would probably be reluctant to do that for those security reasons.
Are there cameras on the site that you're going to have?
No, no,
Is there an alarm system inside if somebody opens the door who's not? Yes?
yes.
Yeah, I personally would like to see something low in front, just for the streetscape.
Sure.
Yeah, because from an aesthetic point of view, you're talking about a corner property on the main street. And to me, that looks like a shed on, you know, on a main street corner. It just, without any other aesthetics, it kind of looks unsightly.
Yeah.
The way it is
It would
right
just be
there.
nice because of what it looks like now. If we're gonna do something with it, we might as well make it look good.
The plans call for a stone wall?
Stone landscaping surface.
Okay. Can you point that out where that is? I must be picturing something else.
The stone landscaping would be in the area where the trees are, around the outside of the fence. So essentially it would be around here.
Is there a height to this stone landscape? I don't.
No, it's just the ground cover, just stone, yeah.
River rock or something similar.
Is that so that you don't have to maintain it?
Partly, yes.
Yeah, and also it'll provide good drainage. And, yeah, also for maintenance.
Okay, do you have a picture of the fence?
There's a detail in the site plan.
Yeah, there's a
so-
detail in the plans.
Right here, Mike.
It's on D01.dwg. No, I'm saying it's like
Yeah, I
D01.
mean, I mean, I see it, it's just, it's hard to
Yeah.
picture what this is. Again, this is on a, this is, it look, it's a chain link covered with, I don't know, black fabric?
Yeah.
Is that?
The fencing along both of the roads, Morris Avenue and Warner Avenue, will be the ornamental, the black ornamental picket fence. And the fencing, you know, on the interior along the, you know, the residential property and the other commercial property will be the black vinyl fence.
So the chain link, like in.
The chain link is
Diamonds.
on the interior,
And that's gonna be ornamental facing the streets?
correct.
Okay.
The top of the ornamental fence will have what kind of treatment? This is gonna be 6 foot instead of 4 feet. Sometimes they have the spikes, and they have the lattice, they have different treatments.
Yeah, on here it's referred to as pressed point, basically, you know, a pointed top of the fence. Yeah, it says 1 inch square picket E pressed point. So,
Yeah.
Would you be adverse to keeping the ornamental fence coming around to the right side, at least in a line with the front of the building? So that from Morris Avenue, you don't have the chain link all the way out to the road?
Because you'll be looking, you're driving, you'll see just until you get to the piece of property there. So if you go back to the front of the building, as you drive, you'll see that ornamental.
At least aligned with the front of
Yes,
the building?
we would, yes.
Okay. Does anybody else on the board, oh, you have any more testimony before I? Does anybody else on the board have questions for this witness?
Well, I had asked before, why are you leaving so much pavement? Is it for maintenance reasons? Are you gonna repave there, or are you gonna leave what's there? or-
it will be repaved, it is for maintenance and also for security, just to have enough room for, again, most of the time there'll only be one vehicle, but it may be necessary to have multiple vehicles there.
Are
So,
there gonna be any signs posted as to what this is, that are on outside fence, or?
There's a typical New Jersey American Water Security fence that says, do not enter public utility. I think there's a contact number on there for,
Is that just gonna be on the two gates? One at each gate?
it's periodically along the fence and on the gates also. A small About 4 feet, 4 square feet?
And there will be no vehicles parked there on a regular basis, only for servicing and emergencies?
Correct.
Sorry, the sign is on the ornamental fence, or it's on the one?
It's all the way around,
All the way around what?
Yeah.
The ornamental fence,
yeah,
as well as the chain link?
correct.
And these things are 4 feet square?
Sorry, they're 1 square foot. It's just a do not enter, just says do not enter, and gives a New Jersey American Water Company name and a contact number for emergency or public reports.
So if an alarm does go off, is it the neighbor who calls, or the, you have a?
No, there's remote monitoring. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's okay. This is John Gillespie, who is also from New Jersey American Water. He's the project engineer,
Yes.
and he has not been sworn yet, right?
Raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes. All right, so to the security signs, small 1x1 sign, the typical standard, which was also a direction from BPU when we were putting security signs up on fencings around our properties of Booster Station, was 1 every 50 foot. If you got a much shorter distance.
5-0?
Yes. So in this case, we normally would put them on our gates, and then 50 feet down, we would put another one, turn a corner, depending on how long. We have some facilities, some sites that are humongous.
And so, I mean, I don't have the page here, but the scale on that is what? How far across are we talking about for that square? How many signs are there actually gonna
We
be on
probably
that?
see 2 here,
2 signs, okay.
and then 2 on here, possibly just 1 in the back and 1 in the back here. Where it's most visible and most of the traffic is.
And there's one facing the neighbor's house as well?
Yes.
Well, you're gonna have another fence back there, you said you're gonna put up a second fence?
Yes, we've actually had met with the property owners here and here. Their stockade fence is decrepit, falling down over the years. A washout down in the back corner has kind of pushed everything down in the corner, started knocking his fence down. So when speaking with him here, we're gonna replace their stockade fence on the back side here on the commercial property and along the residential property on the back side.
Matching fence to what they have?
Yes, they have a wooden stockade fence now, so we would replace it in kind. And they are 6 foot high stockade.
On their property, is it?
I believe it's right on the property line. It's very tight in there, but as you can see, I believe these are right on the property line.
Who's gonna own and maintain those?
They are their fences, so we will replace them for them, but they will be responsible for maintaining.
Okay, so now I have to ask a question. Do we need a variance for the 6-foot fence from the front of the house to the street?
So,
And then also on the property line, right? Doesn't it need to be set in from the property line? Fencing doesn't need to set in from the property line, or? I don't know.
actually, Chairman, can I clear this up? So we're making this offer to the residents. We're not opposing that, we definitely do it. It's I guess it's a utility, residential.
No, I
commercial
understand, but
share
I'm
of-
asking if
No, I,
they accept, do they
Oh,
need
if
to
they
get a
accept, then
variance?
would they need a variance? No.
are there, what's there now?
It's an existing 6 foot high stockade
But does
fence.
it go all the way to the street
I
line? That's what-
believe.
Does it stop at the
on
back
this
of their
side here,
house?
It stops right where you see it.
I'm not worried about I'm more worried about
On the
that piece that
residential
goes
side?
to the street out to Warner.
Okay, so I believe currently now it stops somewhere in the middle of this driveway right here. is
Okay,
where the
so-
stockade fence stops.
All right.
And we would extend it out as an offer.
Well, if you extend it, I would extend it to the front of his house. If you can't go from the front of the house to the street, no, his house.
Yeah, this is his house right here.
Right, so align with the front of his house. and
That's as far as you can go
Okay,
with a 6-footer,
okay.
if they accept. If they go to the street, you can't go to the street with a 6-footer.
Okay.
I would think they want to lock in their property anyway, so they'll probably have a piece coming out. I don't, that's something you guys, but I'm just telling you, to tell them, they can't go all the way to the street with a 6-foot fence.
Based on our current ordinances.
The ordinance in town.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that in the conversation of having a variance, though, this is the thing I missed. The ornamental fence in the front in a non-residential district it's not permitted in the front yard, so I think they do need a seepable variance for the fence in the front yard.
Yeah, which we asked for in
Yeah,
our
that's-
application and notice,
that was
yeah.
in the-
Okay, that's considered. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
And as far as the signage, I just looked through the ordinance just to make sure, they are corner lot, so they're well underneath the sign, the facade sign or a wall sign, which we could consider on the fencing. They're permitted 2 signs because they are a corner lot. As far as the interior ones, I don't know if we wanna be extra cautious and look at the variance for those signs.
Interior?
They're talking about putting security signs
Yeah.
along the fencing. As I understood it, both on the outside, on the corner, and then on the inside where the chain link fence is as well.
Oh, so there's
So
no,
there'd be more than 2 signs. Do you understand what I'm saying?
yeah, so do they need an ordinance, do they need a variance for the extra signs?
It's up to the board's discretion, I think. If you wanna be cautious, I'd say that just go for the variance so that
That's
it's on the
fine.
record.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I think they need the signs to
They do
keep
need
the
the
people
signs,
out,
it's
so
a matter
I
of
don't have a
public
problem with the
safety, so
signs.
I don't think the request for the variance would be onerous. I
No.
think it is a public safety issue,
Yes,
so.
I agree.
Okay, so just so we're clear, there are no interior signs. They will all be on the fence.
But on the interior of the
Oh,
property,
Okay.
not on facing the streets.
With the front and the 2 sides and the 2 backs?
Yeah, the 2 backs is what she's saying.
Okay.
Is there any concern about the fence and traffic coming out of Warner and Morris Avenue? Are they far back enough that it doesn't affect safety?
They have 20 feet, they just make it's gonna be a tight fit if they pull up and park off Morris. It's gonna be a tight fit. I mean, the RSI asked, the typical parking space would be 9 by 18.
No, I'm actually talking about people who are coming out onto Warner, out onto Morris. Are their sightlines affected, ability to see traffic? People for
It
safety?
should be with it's a picket fence, so I didn't have any concerns with that.
Okay,
You can see through.
okay.
And I believe our fence sits actually back from that sight line at the stop sign.
Has the fire department looked at this at all? Is there any need for a fire hydrant?
They have no permit.
Okay. With all that water going around, I mean, have they asked?
My only other question is about the security gates. If you can just describe how they operate, and then describe if you do any kind of, coordination with the local emergency services in the case that they need to get into the interior of the site.
Okay, so in this situation on this lot, our security gates will be manual sliding gates. So they would pull up off the road, get out, unlock it, slide it open. Frank, I'll let you address. I believe we work with all the local fires. I mean, in this case, they would have access to this facility in case of a fire via either dual lock, like a dual lock combination, or they could actually get up and actually unlock the gate, similar to access in the
Like a
building.
knockbox?
Something similar to a lockbox.
Yeah, because you said you have HVAC and stuff inside, so there
Yes,
is
on the
electricity
electrical room
in, just in
side,
case
yes.
there's a fire. Okay.
And we did also take the opportunity to propose all underground utilities coming off of Morris Ave. Currently, everything's overhead running into the site. We've actually gone with the underground route. And of course, that's also maintenance too, in case there's a storm, something happens, takes down the power lines. It's better for us to have it underground. And then, of course, with the equipment coming in and out, if something happens.
How big and noisy would be the auxiliary generator that is being proposed for emergencies?
Auxiliary generators are generally pretty loud. They're exempt from DEP noise regulation, as you know, during emergency operation at a utility facility. But given the low number of times that this facility will run during the year and the likelihood that there'd be a power outage in conjunction with one of those times, I don't think that it would pose a significant disruption to the neighborhood. Other folks will have generators running too, I would think.
Where is the generator gonna be located? The
We
back
actually-
side or the right side?
Yeah, off of the electrical room right here, we've actually are looking to install a port here for bringing in a portable generator and looking to
Oh, so
set
you're
it
just
up.
gonna have a transfer switch?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's not an active generator on site, like a backup generator on site?
Correct.
permanently?
There is not.
No,
Just
this
in
is a
case,
portable,
okay.
right.
That's
In
fine.
case of an emergency, they would roll in with the portable, bring it in, hook it up, plug it in, throw the transfer switch water. I know when Frank was doing his testimony earlier in regards to the transfer, maybe some of you were aware, back through Irene, Sandy, right there at the bridge, right by Washington, we set up a pumper that went to a hydrant-to-hydrant connection between the two systems, and it sat out there for quite a long time through the storm, to be able to help push us water and get us water up into our system during the power outages and everything that happened during the storm.
Sorry.
Do you guys have any more
Greg, I
questions?
just, one more thing. How many trees are being taken out? Was it six? Six? That was the report, six?
I thought I counted nine.
Five to six.
I think 9 trees were being taken.
What are they, the closest to the back of to the existing structure?
Yeah, there's a few back in this area and then a few over in this area. The ones that we're proposing to take down, we've looked at, they are decrepit trees, they are falling down. And our main concern is that they come down on top of the station after we build the $4 million station and it takes it out. With the remaining trees left, there's still gonna be plenty of shade coverage. I mean, these trees are 50, 60 footers back now.
Okay, so the trees were not healthy and that was the reason?
Yes, yes.
Do our experts have any other questions?
Well, I just wanted them to, you acknowledge, I saw your response, the engineering letter, that, were there anything particular where you can?
No, I think most of your comments were informational. If there's anything you'd like to discuss, certainly we'd be happy to. We do have our planner also to put testimony in the record with respect to the variances, but we'd be happy to address any comments in your letter, but we responded to it, and unless you have exception to any of the responses, I don't think we took exception to your
Everyone have a
comments.
copy of the response? So they did respond to it, and what they responded it seemed reasonable.
Yeah, I looked at them before we started.
So I have no further comment.
Anybody on the board have any more questions for this witness?
No, I think no, I think it's something for us to discuss, but I'm just curious so they talked about making improvements to the front of this building to make it seem that it would fit better into this, but I'm just curious what that, like what we're talking about here so that they can visualize, because that is a pretty ugly building.
Sure.
With a bunch of ugly fences.
Sure,
Right,
so you can't put windows in it, but you could put, I think they call them spandrel windows. It's like a fake window that you put to make it look like it's got a window either side of the door. We can decorate up the facade a little bit. Again, we'll work with your planner to make sure we're doing something that's consistent with the comments in our letter and with what you guys want.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's gonna look industrial no matter what we do to it. It's gonna,
Yeah, I mean, just to try and,
any effort we can that we put in faux windows or something, I would say, let's do
sort
it.
of blends. I mean, the fence, the chain link fence,
Well, the chain
it
link's
gives
not
it away,
facing the
right?
street, so we made sure of that. The chain
Right.
link's not facing the street.
Right, so, but you still see a black wrap fence someplace, right, so.
Better than storing down the fence. But we actually had meetings prior, starting almost a year ago, just to get our heads wrapped around after looking at so many locations out there, try to find a great location. And then we got together with the engineer and the zoning officer to just get out in front to just make sure that this is even feasible. And they gave us a lot of great feedback. Maybe one that wasn't so good is the pictures you saw was supposed to just be an example of what the material would be, not what the building would look like. So maybe on that example, we probably could have brought a couple other examples in that maybe were a little more appeasable. But after talking with the manufacturer on the prefab building in regards to say fall windows, maybe getting a couple things on front to make the building look a little bit, I'm working with them now on that. It has not been done, but I will continue to work with them.
Yeah, and with the board planner, of course, as well. So if I,
Anybody else have any more questions for this witness before we let him go? Yeah, there were two people here who left, but is there anybody from the public who has any questions for this witness? Thank you.
Thank you.
So before I start, I want to know where you got your shirt that says "Coffee Saves Lives." I need that. That being said, I'm sorry. So I'm going to provide the planning testimony regarding the use variance. We're here because the office zone, the O zone, does not permit public utility uses, and this site is actually an existing non-conforming use because the prior use is more of a retail use, which is also not permitted in the office zone. So what we're doing is we're demolishing an older building that's falling down, cleaning up a site, and putting a new use on it. The new use will be a 510 square foot building, a much smaller building than you would typically see in an office zone. And it is designed to provide a public service to the surrounding area. In this instance, we also require additional variances, some bulk variances. We talked about them this evening. They include the 6-foot fence in the front yard, which the entire front yard area, as I have it, will be the wrought iron style fence, as well as the variances for the existing conditions, and that is that the lot size is required in the office zone of 20,000 square feet, and the existing lot is 12,140 square feet, and the lot depth is required at 150 feet. The existing lot depth is at 121.4 feet. We do conform to all other requirements of the office zoning district, which is important and goes towards part of the negative criteria when I get to that part of the testimony. In this instance, there are two parts of the D variance that I'd like to address. First and foremost, I think that it is important to note that it is my professional opinion that this is an inherently beneficial use. Public utilities are by their nature considered of value to the community because they fundamentally serve the public good and promote the general welfare. And this use does in fact do that by providing an improvement to the existing water supply system that serves the surrounding community. And that improvement is when you have times of emergency or drought or high demands, when you have that need for that extra water. And I think there's a public interest associated with that that does in fact lend this to being considered an inherently beneficial use. But because I'm a belt and suspenders kind of person, I also believe that under the D variance criteria, you can also find that this site and the use are particularly suited to one another. I believe that for various reasons. First and foremost, the site is located in an area where there are existing water mains that are of sufficient size to accommodate this pumping station. So there's not any additional improvements and interruption to the existing water system to provide it on this property. In addition to that, the fact that this site is in an office zone and not a residential zone adds to the benefit of the reuse of this property. This property is substantially undersized. To be developed as a conforming use would be practically difficult given the size of the property. In fact, if you look, our building meets, in most part, all of the required setbacks. It would be difficult to provide a larger building with appropriate parking for professional office use, which is one of the permitted uses in this district. Another permitted use is, of course, residential, but being that you're on Morris Avenue, it's not necessarily the most ideal location to put a new home. It's one thing when you have existing homes that have established there over time, but to put a new home on a 4-lane highway with that volume is not necessarily ideal. So this use, in the way it's designed to accommodate this property with a smaller building, with low impact on the surrounding area in terms of traffic and vehicles visiting the property, to me is a unique fit for this property and makes the property particularly suited for that use, both because of the location of the infrastructure and the fact that the property is undersized. The existing office district actually jogs and goes back further as you go in the, I don't know where the north arrow, as you go to the east, the office district actually jogs back to encompass those larger lots, demonstrating that this lot is in fact smaller than the surrounding office properties. So I think you can find not only is this an inherently beneficial use, but it is also a site and a use that are particularly suited to one another, and that a public utility use does in fact promote the general welfare by providing a service to the community and promotes the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. With that being said, if we look at this as an inherently beneficial use, we are required to address the SECA balancing test. And the SECA balancing test has 4 factors to it, and that includes evaluating the public interest served by the inherently beneficial use, identifying any adverse consequences of granting the variance, considering any conditions which might be imposed to mitigate that consequence, and balancing the positives against those negative impacts. In addition to that, for both types of variances, there's a negative criteria that has to be satisfied, and that is that there's no substantial impairment to your zoning ordinance and zone plan, and no substantial detriment to the public good. A lot of what goes towards the negative criteria, I think we can address in terms of the 2 steps of this test, that is identifying any adverse consequences and conditions which you have already done, and I've made notes of those conditions in terms of what those benefits would then be. In this instance, I believe I've already identified the public interest at stake. The concern with the terms of what are the impacts, we talked about noise. One of the things that the engineers didn't indicate is that the building will also have soundproofing, so that not only will we meet the DEP noise requirements, but the building will be designed to ensure that we meet those requirements. So there will be no negative impact in terms of noise from this proposed operation. Traffic. There is no substantial detriment or impact in terms of traffic from this proposed use. You have very rare and infrequent visits for maintenance. It is not a daily operation like an office use with people in between 8 and 9 in the morning and out again between 4 and 6 in the afternoon, which is an impact on the surrounding area. The building design, we identified some improvements we will be making to the building. That goes to the other criteria that, yes, there is an impact in terms of trying to design a 500 square foot building to look more residential or appealing in nature, and we are amenable to those conditions to work with your planner as identified to create some interest in the facade. We are also able to provide some level of landscaping that we discussed this evening. We can't screen the property, but we can enhance it with low-level landscaping along the street frontage, which is important on Morris Avenue because it is one of your main streets, so you want it to look nice. So by wrapping the wrought iron fence the way it was suggested by the chairman, and then adding that additional landscaping, those conditions will help to offset any potential negatives from this proposed application. In terms of other impacts that could be noticed from this application, which actually go towards the negative criteria, when you look at your zoning ordinance, the zoning ordinance for this zone does allow a building coverage of 40%. Our coverage, of course, is substantially less than that, so we conform to that. Our lot coverage would be permitted at 75%. This is proposed at 47%. All the other requirements of the setbacks and standards will, of course, be satisfied. We are eliminating some asphalt area in terms of where that additional driveway was. Although the driveway's been removed, we'll be cleaning up that area so you don't have the appearance of two driveways, whether they're usable or not, on Morris Avenue. And we'll have an overall cleanup of this property. As you're aware, driving by there right now, you have a boarded up building that is really in poor condition, and the prior uses in this building were of an automotive nature or Christmas tree sales, which had a greater impact on that intersection in terms of traffic in and out at different times of the year. In terms of your master plan and ordinance, your ordinance does allow for public utility uses in other zones, just not in the office district. We believe that the office district and the design of this property, and given the smaller size of this lot, will fit in with that surrounding area between the residential and the office uses. You have larger office development in and around the area and some larger buildings in and around the area. This will kind of nestle back into the property and not be something that stands out as out of character. In terms of the substantial detriment to the public good, I also do not believe you would find there to be substantial detriment to the public good for all of those reasons that I identified as potential impacts, and then the conditions that the board can attach to this application to minimize those impacts. So in sum, when you balance the overall benefits that come from the improvement to the water supply system in periods of high demand and emergency situations, the alternative of what has been done in the past by doing the pump that was on the bridge, instead of having to do that, now you have this type of building which is enclosed and encapsulated and done up nice, instead of an old building that's falling apart and more Christmas tree sales and this site not being maintained and upgraded. The benefits to the community, the surrounding area, substantially outweigh the detriments, that it is in fact an inherently beneficial use. There are reasonable conditions that can be attached to that to offset any impacts, satisfying the SECA balancing test, and the negative criteria would also be satisfied because there would not be, in my opinion, a substantial impairment to your zoning ordinance and zone plan or detriment to the public good from this type of use on this property. Sorry.
Tiffany, you spoke
I
about,
did have my coffee too.
you spoke about satisfying the positive criteria for the use variance by either classifying the use as an inherently beneficial use, which you believe it is, or by particular suitability. How are we asking the board to classify the C variances?
The C variances would either be encompassed into the use variance because they are part of the use variance itself, or under the C2 standard, regarding the fence criteria because of the need for the public safety to secure the property. Although the lot size and the lot depth, I believe, would fall under the C1 criteria as a hardship relating to an existing property, there is nothing we can do to remedy those situations. The site has existing development on either side of it at the current time.
So in terms of the C2 criteria, the grant of the bulk variances would satisfy a couple of purposes of zoning. What are they?
So providing promotion of the health, safety, and public welfare in terms of the fencing providing security measures to a public utility, the water supply system for the surrounding area. Additionally, although the fence is within the front yard area, it is a see-through fence. It is set back from the street, not directly on the property line, so promoting adequate light, air, and open space and promotion of a desired visual environment through an attractive fence design with additional landscaping.
Any questions for Ms. Morrissey?
You guys have any questions?
There was one additional variance that we identified through testimony, which was the signs, and I just wanted to have her put on the record some planning criteria for that.
So I would also encompass them into the C2 criteria for the same reasons as the fence and the same purposes in terms of adequate public health and safety, in terms of ensuring that the site is adequately secured so that the people are aware of what is there and have a number to contact for information. These are small signs in size and location, so they're not going to be overpowering on the property.
And you also heard testimony from the applicant that these are customary utility signs, so they'd also be subsumed in the use, correct?
Correct, and they're 1 square foot or less in the area, plus or minus.
Anybody else? Any questions for this witness? Anybody from the public have any questions for this witness? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's what we have for you in terms of affirmative testimony.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions?
I have a question for the engineer. We didn't talk about the sidewalk and the handicap at the corner. Is that ADA compliant? I know there's something out there now, but does it have to be upgraded at all?
We did not propose to change any of the sidewalk. I'm fairly certain that the existing sidewalk is ADA compliant.
If we can just, if anything's damaged during construction activities, or if it's learned that it's not ADA compliant, then would that be part of the improvements? If that's necessary. Plus, I'm also curious about the area between the curb and the sidewalk. How is that going to be treated? Is that going to be stone or?
So during construction, if we were to damage the sidewalk along the front of Morris Ave or Warner Ave, of course, we would bring it back to compliance of what the existing, I don't want to say existing condition, because the existing condition isn't compliant. We don't want to put it back that way. But if we do destroy it, yes, we'll fix it. But currently, we're not proposing any work outside of the property line, which I believe the sidewalk and the handicap ramp is within the right of way, correct?
Yes.
But if, again, if we were to destroy it during construction for some reason, trying to bring equipment in or so forth, then yes, we would address it to the township's.
And what is going to be between the curb and the sidewalk? What's the plan? Because if there's low-lying shrubs or anything, then what are we talking about? Some stone there? Or is it river stone or is it colored stone?
Okay, so, I'm sorry, Mike, can you bring it back to the, or is that the existing condition? Okay, yeah.
Well, this
existing
shows-
condition.
yeah,
Right,
this
so existing condition, you can see that there's a very short grass patch between the curb and the sidewalk. And then here, you can see a much larger grass area between the two accesses here and on the other side. So this, and our fence line would be, somewhat in this area here. So this grass area right here would be the area that we would propose some low-lying landscaping out front.
And then there'd be some kind of stone between the curb and sidewalk on the other, the strip? Is there gonna
Like
be?
this strip right here?
Yes.
Again, anything outside of this sidewalk is DOT right away, so we currently would not be doing any work in the right of way. Or we don't propose to do any work outside of the property line, except for the landscaping in this area here. That falls within our property line. The utility pole and sidewalk is almost right at the edge of the right of way line.
Who maintains that? The county maintains that now? They mow that? I honestly don't know.
This area here?
No, no, no,
The
no.
actual
Oh,
strip.
this here, it's definitely not the previous property owner, I can tell you that, and, I'm not sure who actually maintains that. That is definitely the state right away, because when we originally did the, transmission mains out in the highway, the state came to us because they were resurfacing, or actually doing more than resurfacing. They curved sewer from this area, I think, going back towards Union, quite a stretch. And, when they actually heard about us being interested in this property, they came to us and said, you know, can you get these mains out of here so we can do this road and not have to come back, you don't have to touch it. So we met that criteria, but we kept the mains within the right of way, but outside of the road. So in this area right here, I mean, that's the state
Wow.
property, I'm not
Yeah, it's a
sure.
state
But
hi- it's 80
And it's
it's
very
80
possible
state
that the landscaper that did come take care of the lot, he probably just took a quick rip right down that little piece right there and just mowed it with the rest of it. But according to the property owner and what we saw out there, it wasn't very well maintained landscape wise.
I would agree with that.
And I believe, just one other thing, all the way over here in the corner, there's actually a couple of low-lying shrubs and actually some sort of signage. I'm not sure who owns it, it's out in the right of way. We would probably propose to take that sign down out there, but I would have to talk to the state and actually find out who owns that sign and who placed it there.
Actually, I drove by there on the way here, and it's not actually a sign, there's just two posts there.
Yeah, it's just.
It's not even a sign, it's just two wooden
Sign's not
posts, so, yeah, I would think it'd be best to just remove
Just
those, you
remove
don't,
the
yeah,
posts.
you don't want
So
two
that
posts
we
just
could
there.
also, if we got into that area, then,
You could throw some shrubs on the corner,
couple shrubs,
right around the
there's a couple
corner.
low-lying,
Yeah.
like low-lying shrubs there now, so we would definitely make that look nice right there on that corner.
Do we know what color the stone will be? Will it be just a natural river stone or a colorized stone? I'm just curious. I've seen white, dark, I've seen.
We would probably go
I've
like
seen
a
everything.
kind of a multi-color, maybe 2-inch, around a 2-inch size, multi-color, landscaping, stone.
The board, would you guys prefer?
Yeah, because actually currently in that whole back location.
Anything you guys do will make that piece of property look better, so I don't have a problem with the stone color.
Yeah, the grass doesn't grow, the trees, with everything back there, even the sections that are grass, it's not grown.
The
It's all
darker
over.
color will match it better anyway than white, so the mixed color sounds good.
I just, want to say, I don't know how we put this in any kind of resolution about the pitch of the roof in the building. Is that something that just left to the discretion of the planner, or do we put that in some kind of resolution? I had put in my notes that, it was agreed that they were going to try and reduce the pitch of the roof.
I mean, lower the plate, increase the pitch.
Increase the pitch in conjunction with the planner. So if you put that in a resolution, you're essentially giving your planner the authority to deal with that.
That's fine.
And the faux windows, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I made the note, that's here too.
Any other questions?
I just, they did respond in my, to my letter in that they are going to TV inspect the sanitary sewer line, just to make sure everything's still working for that. They're gonna have a Thor drain inside the building, and I imagine they're gonna be tied into the sewer line, so it's just something that we have to just make sure it's still workable.
Yes, there's an existing sewer lateral on the property, and, yeah, we'll connect to that and
So if you
make sure
have
that.
to dredge it out or clean it out, you'll have it done?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. We're good? Anybody else from the public have any questions? All right, so I'm gonna ask for an approval with all the stipulations that you have on your, we're gonna read them, or?
If I can read my handwriting.
Okay, so all the stipulations that we discussed during testimony.
What I have is that there's an agreement to, as I put it, liven up the building, using faux windows and other items, increase the pitch,
to be approved by the board planner. There's going to be low-lying landscape along the outside of the fence.
That's on Morris Avenue, facing on Morris Avenue.
Could that be on both streets?
Yeah, Warner.
Both
On
fronts?
Warner, yeah, yeah,
Along the orange.
that's what we discussed, what's facing the public.
Would you like
What
to
is-
see that as a, or not see that, would you like to have that submitted as a landscape plan to myself for approval?
That'd be a good idea.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Just so we have it in, on a
Document
file?
it, yeah.
yeah.
that's fine.
The ornamental fence that's running along Morris Avenue will be extended to turn the corner to go back to the corner of the building.
Front of the building, yes.
The neighbor needs, it needs to be clear that the fence along the residential neighbor's line cannot go past the front of that house and still be 6 feet.
Yes.
We added a variance for the signs, we talked about that. The rest is just the planner's test. So those
Okay.
are the restrictions I have.
And could we include they have a list of responses in their responses to the engineer's letter,
That will
they
be
would be
incorporated, yep.
Okay.
Last additional one would be the coordination with the Township Emergency Services for Knox box or the like for the,
So, the fire
Security
department can
Yeah,
get it if they need
Right.
to, okay. Great. So with all those stipulations, I'd like to ask for an approval for application 2019-8, American Water Company, Inc., 46 Morris Avenue, Block 404, Lot 3, preliminary and final site plan, use variance, 3 bulk variants, well, it's more than, 3 bulk variances, and another variance for the signs. Is that included, or is that a separate variance?
It's lot size,
there's two.
lot
places,
depth, and signs. I think it's
Yeah,
those
so,
three.
yeah, there's
Fence height.
lot size, lot depth, fence in the front yard, and the 2 additional 1-foot, whereabouts signs.
So 4.
And I do have a question with regards to the 6-foot fence. That the fact that there's special circumstances regarding the requirement of a 6-foot fence on a corner property.
It's the front yard that's.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's,
right.
Location in the front yard, which the board
Right.
provided testimony that's linked to the use.
Okay.
The public
yeah, because it's
utility.
not, again,
Okay.
it's not a residential, that we're,
Right,
a
I know,
residential
yeah,
6-foot
that's what,
fence in the
yeah,
front
right.
yard. This is a,
Yeah, this is particularly, to chapter 3522.1C2, which is non-residential districts, which is in the O zone, a non-residential
Yeah.
district.
Right.
Does not permit front yard fencing.
Right.
They're requesting.
Okay,
And there are 2 front yards.
yes.
There are 2
Yes.
front yards, correct.
okay.
And there's a use variance.
Yes, I said use variance first. I
Yes.
said 3 bulk, but is it 4 bulk, or it's,
2 pre-existing nonconformities, which are both, and then 2, the sign and the fence. which is
okay,
2 others.
so, for the booster station. So can I get
I'll
it?
make a motion to approve, as stipulated.
I'll second.
Mr. Schnur?
Yes.
Mr. Hochstein?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Yes,
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Sagalow?
Yes.
And Vice Chair, who's actually the chair, Roth.
Thank you, yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you, guys.
thank you.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.